Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. I would like to welcome you to the next Wasteless World Talks with Kevin and Bill. And this week, we have something very simple. We will speak about Apple. And you know what the first question is, closing the eyes. And so I will start this time with you, Bill. If you close your eyes and you hear the term Apple, what do you see first?
So I am going to step out of normal because my wife just walked through here and she is always curious as to what the word is. And so as soon as I told her the word was apple, boom, 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 just like that, she said, the apple of my eye. And then she said, an apple a day keeps the doctor away. And then she said, you're just comparing apples and oranges. And then she left the room. So I think probably she needs to be on this conversation. That was very quick for her. She, but in that context, then there are three English sayings. I don't know if you have similar sayings in your country, um, but a simple saying like that, it is meant to have a lot of wisdom. So somehow there's something as simple. You said it's just as simple as an apple, but there's all this wisdom in that. We say the apple of my eye, which means you are the most precious thing that my eye sees. An apple a day keeps the doctor away, says something about nutrition, of course. Uh, and you're comparing apples and oranges is a saying that we use. Okay, that's common. Okay, that you're not comparing the same things. Um, and to me, when you said apple, I thought of fruit with seeds in it that will grow into a tree and beget more fruits. And so there's an essence of time uh, going on and progressing and so on. So I'll throw that out to you and do with it, do with that as you will.
What about you, Kevin?
I thought immediately of the Garden of Eden. And an interesting thing about the Garden of Eden, according to the Sumerian text, where it wasn't a garden, it was a farm. And man was working on the farm. They were laborers, they were slaves. It wasn't paradise at all. It was a slave plantation. And according to the Sumerian texts, the word Satan means administrator in the garden.
I love that part.
It's wonderful, isn't it? So the Garden of Eden was administered by Satan. Or rather, Satan was just the administrator. It meant administrator.
That's interesting. And even more interesting, because we are plus minus same generation, we can call it so. When we close our eyes, we do not see the Apple product. We do not see iPhone, we do not see earbuds, we do not see. I just at the noon event with the same topic, I said that Apple is here for a few decades. I was wrong. During the event, I checked when the brand name Apple was registered. 1976 is just 5 years younger than me. So I was surprised about it. I didn't check before the event, I checked during. It's quite interesting, 1976. And according to some information, Steve Jobs loved apples. So this is why it is one part of the story. But what I would like to say that generally, if we say apple to many people around us, they will not see the fruit. They will not see the, garden. They will not see the tree. They will see a product. And it is quite interesting that there is a term used which change because since the Apple brand was introduced, there was happening almost nothing. But in the last 20 years, I will say, or 10 years, with the phone, with the mobile phone introduction, I think there came the change, the biggest change. And I think at the time, how short was the time when so many people stopped thinking about Apple as an Apple? And we came back to the language, and we came back to the importance, and we came back to the pretenders who pretend to do something in a way. And I have a question for you. Just now, you understand this example, Apple as a fruit and Apple as a product. Does any other example came to your mind when a term is being used, taken out of the nature, and used for a very different thing at the moment?
Well, Amazon certainly.
Great example, yeah. I have seen today in the morning was some video on YouTube how the dry season completely devastated. There is no forest anymore. Even the river is generally almost disappeared in many places. Very dangerous. And you, Kevin?
Not off the top of my head, but there must be hundreds. I mean, when I used to work at Volkswagen, all the cars were named after winds, like Carmen, Passat, Sirocco, which I thought was a nice series. It was a nice idea.
I came with cloud. We take the cloud from the sky, because when you and me, we've been children, and we spoke about clouds, what we did, we look up. Today, the kids look in the mobile device, and they look whether they have still some space free for the data. And the reason why I speak about it, because it looks like that it's intentionally. It's intentionally changing. It's somehow, in some way, it's transferring the real world into the digital, into the virtual. Take an apple. Your avatar in the digital world does not need to eat an apple, but maybe needs a computer. So it's really, really strange. And I was considering even to ban this way, how to use a standard word for something completely, completely different.
Michael, you used the word intentional. What makes you think it's intentional?
I think that someone was a great marketing and salesman, and he said, okay, Apple knows everyone. Let's use it and use it for our product. You know, I see it with Industry 5.0. Every single day, hundreds of people use the term just to sell a product, having no idea or no paying attention that it must not be what they say. The worst one, of course, say it intentionally because they don't care. They need to sell. They don't care about the origin. So this is what I mean with intentional.
I think one interesting thing about the Apple is, and you can see it in Apple's logo, the bite taken out. Again, it's reference back to Eden and the loss of innocence. It's kind of is very fundamental to the human story.
I didn't take it back to the loss of innocence. I was just thinking you are hungry for information. But it's generally the same, but it's quite interesting.
But it looks, do you remember the original one had the 6 color bands going through it? It certainly looks a lot cooler these days.
Good marketing.
Yeah.
I've spent most of my career as a marketing person, and there is a lot that I feel ashamed of. Not that I did it, but that I am one of the people who helps to sell cigarettes and helps to sell sugar and helps to greenwash the fossil fuel industries and so on. In this case, though, I think I'm going to judge them not so harshly and say merely that they are using terms and concepts that are pleasing, and all of nature is pleasing, and in so many of them doing it, it has transferred the nature into the digital to some extent. But it was, I know that there are many marketing people who are trying, like when they try to greenwash something, they often will use nature. Because nature is not as threatening as clouds of smoke are. Anyhow, just a thought.
In general, nature does not have a lawyer to fight for them. That's another thing. I think that with the Apple logo, I have no problem generally. I don't think that Steve Jobs did it because he would like to harm someone. No, he did it because he was really clever guy and genius in some way. So I think, but for example, I think that Amazon, which was mentioned here, was a very different story. Very different story. I think that from the very beginning, from the first books sold, it was clear that the aim is to make a lot of money, and the term was great. So Amazon. So we have even in Prague, we have an Amazon street or something like that, where was, I think, the headquarters of Amazon here in Czech Republic, you know, and we have here, I think, 100,000 square meter warehouses just for the returns of it from Europe, and big part is being, when returned, nobody check, they just burn it. They even don't sell it like in the US, they burn it. Incarnation. Horrible story.
I must admit, I don't have a bad word to say about Apple or Amazon because I'm a heavy user of both.
As am I.
There was one thing where I understood that it was impossible for them to do it, but I bought a book, and it was a hardback, and the cover was torn. So I asked them if they could send a new cover, and instead they sent a new book and asked me to send the old book back, which was a waste of effort. But I did it anyway, not ever on my part, but I mean just to ship a whole book back rather than just send one single book cover. But I can understand with the way the logistics are, it's impossible to do that. But generally, I think both Apple and Amazon are great products. I mean, Apple is so intuitive to use. Just incredible how they can achieve that. I was reading today that I don't know much about. I got an old iPhone 8, but I was reading the new small iPhone 15 has at last a replaceable battery, which is I don't know if the others have, but it's certainly a step forward if this is a new thing.
And also there are laws being passed here. I suspect the EU may already have them. It used to be that the iPhone and many electronics were not repairable. It voided the warranty. It did all sorts of awful things. And they're now passing laws here that everything must be repairable. Or at least you cannot stop people from repairing.
There is a great channel, Tear Down, YouTube channel. I think Tear Down, something like that. It's called. It's really great. The guy gets the newest gadgets and try to tear it down and see what's inside and how easy it is. And so he's really good one. I can share. I just came when we speak about Amazon especially, or about the e-traders. I just read a report today in the morning how the paper packaging is generally completely distracting ecosystem, because until now everybody says that the paper packaging is the best one because you can recycle and so on, and it show up that it's just another single-use product. And if anything is single-use, it will be a problem earlier or later, it doesn't matter. And they just came that generally a big share of the paper never returned. And I make, as you know, Emily's in the on the university. She's trying right now to get to the another part of the university, and they have a case study to make because she would like to do a product design and or industrial design. Sorry, industrial design. And the question was, or the task was, make a packaging for an egg from a paper, but it should not break when it's from 1 meter high. She make a great design, really great. So she played with it, broke few eggs, but at the end she make a great design. And you know, she asked me what I will do. So I went to the cupboard, take a package or a box for a pulp, and put the egg inside. Because
Michael, a box for a what?
Bulb,
Oh, light bulb.
bulb, yeah.
Light bulb.
And it's fixed such a way that you can put the egg inside. And you can drop it and it will not break. And I had a yesterday discussion, or day before yesterday discussion with a packaging producer I know for a long time. He is producing from cardboard usually. And he said it's almost impossible to use a package for one type of product to use it for some different type of product. It's not. It's just about the creativity. You know, you don't care whether the apple grow on this tree or another tree, whether it's green or red or yellow. If it's tasty, you will enjoy it.
The packaging question, talking about Apple and Amazon. I also, Kevin, use Amazon. In fact, just 2 minutes before we got on this talk, I ordered a new shampoo. But one of my pet peeves has been Amazon's packaging. So I will get a big box, half a meter, big box, and inside is one little thing with a whole bunch of those plastic inflatable pillows, right? So you know, why could they not have put it in a smaller package, or waited until there's 3 or 4 items to go in there? And so I started taking pictures, and I took pictures along the beach. One was of an Amazon package. Somebody had discarded it in the ocean, and it was floating. Excuse me. And I'm calling that Amazon waste. And then I take a picture when I open up a great big box, and there's one little thing in it, and I title it Amazon waste. However, the marketing people at Amazon are good. So now I've begun to see cardboard boxes from Amazon, and on the outside of the box, it says, when you are finished using this, you can repurpose it for, and they list 5 bullets. A fort that the kids can cut windows in, you know, whatever. And they actually list the repurposing things, which has been one of the things I've been trying to push with any design, is that the repurposing item, or what you could use this for after it's done with its single purpose. So they are thinking about this. They have a ways to go, but they're thinking about it. And the other thing is that with the amount of paper that packaging uses, I've been interested in some of the articles I've been seeing about bamboo, which grows comes to fruition in 10 times faster than a tree, and it's got all these good properties to it, and more sturdy than paper from a tree, and so on. So I see the whole packaging industry continuing to. I would love to take a course in packaging today, because it's changing again, as everything is.
It's actually one of the good things about Apple is when you buy an Apple product, you don't have a user manual with 200 pages in 5 languages.
Right.
I was working for Panasonic 15 years ago, 16 years ago, and they produce TV here in the country. They do not anymore, but are not in these quantities. And there was one project 15 years ago to switch from the paper to CD. The issue was that not every buyer have a computer which has a CD slot. But it was a great project, to be honest. It was very complicated to make it in a different, there were so many variations of that. And I would like to say to the packaging, because I am very active in this, paper can be made from fallen leaves, from grass, from even cannabis. A lot of things are usable. What I like about the paper and some of the packaging is that they put, for example, seeds inside. So if you do not need it and you leave it in a garden, it will grow some plants. But for the reusing, it's not about the marketing people, Bill. It is about the people who listen to Wasteless World Talks, because you mention it so many times. So it's your idea in their eyes, like it was in the mouth of Joe Biden, was the idea which Kevin mentioned, let's put a watermark on AI. Everything is connecting to us.
So that's interesting that they can make a cardboard box out of cannabis.
Yeah.
So then when we have this list of bullet points of what you can repurpose it for, you just say you can smoke it, right?
It's possible. I can't say, but it's possible.
Actually, I have a complaint about the packaging of real apples. And that is, I don't know if it's the same in the Czech Republic and in the US, but in Denmark, every apple has a little sticker on it. And first of all, I'm pretty sure nobody reads it. Secondly, nobody really cares what kind of apple it is. Everybody knows the Granny Smiths from a God knows what, and you normally buy the apples you like anyway, so you don't need to have a label on every single one. I know that in Germany, people won't buy apples if they got stickers on them. They just refuse. They think it's disgusting.
What is the objection? The adhesive maybe that's on the sticker?
Yeah, I think so.
One is the adhesive. This is one thing. The second is it's very hard to take it out. And the reason for putting it there, it's for generally recognizing on the cashier desk which type of apple it is. But already 4 years ago, they started with laser it. So they have a laser brand, and they put a laser sign on it. So they just put it there. And there was one more technology introduced, I think, 2 years ago, as the apples. And that's quite interesting. You can try, I think it will be the same in both of your countries. If you put an apple which you bought in a retail chain store, if you put it under the low warm water, it will look different because there is a very thin layer of a candle is made from
A wax.
Wax, yeah. There is a very thin layer of wax which is protecting against spoiling too early, but it's it doesn't taste so well. And there came somebody, I don't know which country it was, but it's a bath, and when it goes through this bath, it's completely natural, something whatever, and it increased the shelf life by 2 times or something like that. I think the biggest issue, for me as a logistician is that an Apple is being picked in the US and driven or flawed to Czech Republic, and this is simply a thing. I have seen a supply chain when I think blueberries or something like that has been picked in Chile, driven to Europe to be packed and driven back to US to be sold. It's horrible. It's horrible. We have to learn again. And here we are with Apple. I think that it is important, and it is even our task to put more value on the apple which you can pick up on a tree by yourself than on the apple which you can buy in a store. Because in the store you will buy all the time the same, like millions people will have. But the apple you pick up on a tree, there will be not a second will be the same. And that's the great part.
I remember as a kid, we used to go, we called it scrumping, which was stealing apples from orchards around this time of year. And the best ones were the little ones that they were using to make cider from. They were so bitter that when you bit into them, your cheeks disappeared. It was like, oh, but after 2 bites, they were absolutely delicious.
I have those here. I picked them last week. Just to prove. And this is the plus minus the standard size. So.
And half of these things you just don't see in the stores anymore. It's the good thing in Denmark is if you're driving along, they have a lot of by the road, they just put apples into bags, and you can just pay 10 krona and get 5 apples. And they're completely different to the things you get in the supermarket. Much tastier, much fresher.
Is it common in Denmark or in UK or in the US that you have apple trees or different trees around the roads?
That's very common, yes.
Why they has been planted? Have you ever thought about it? We have a discussion with Granddad about. And then I look for, and it was really planted for the people who walk, because at the time there was no cars and so on, who walk, to have a refreshment on the go.
That's a really nice story.
That is. I hope that that's true, and we should do more of it. So the one thing about Apple packaging, and I'm talking about my iPhone, is the designers of that packaging are so ingenious. My hat's off to them. They're really good. After I take my new iPhone or iPad out of the box, usually there's a discrete little handle built into the top of the box, and the packaging of each of the components inside. I don't want to throw that box away. It I in fact, I have some of them downstairs in the basement. There must be another use for them, but they don't end up in landfill yet. Not until we clean up the basement. But very good packaging.
If they just make a cut in the top, you can put your phone there and you will have a phone holder.
True.
Very simple way.
That's the first bullet point on the repurposing.
I've gone to such an extreme with Apple products that I have now 4 dead MacBook Pros, but I'm keeping them because I'm pretty sure one day it'll be so cool to have retro computers.
Right, there'll be retro computers. Good.
Yeah.
I just last week, or I think last week, I have heard or I have read that Sega, so this game console producer from 80s, they uh, published or released last week for a new game console, how it's called, so generally this cartridge, for a 46-year-old machine. And it's a new release. It's very expensive. They say it's very expensive, but it's completely new release. So it's great. And I just wonder how far we came from an apple to an apple. So the question is, if we are somehow, what should we do that the people value more the apples on the trees than the apples on the table, on the desk, or on a computer? What must be done?
I think one possible scenario is that we are headed to reverse that right now. And I look at the future of cities, for example. First of all, there are fewer people commuting into a city because of the remote work. There are more people living in the city under the 15-minute rule, which says that everything that you need, from your groceries to your school, needs to be within a 15-minute walk. Um, and and the city engineers are looking at things like heat and how much heat the pavement holds. And if you simply put more trees and less pavement, that your cities will be cooler. And if you make the streets pedestrian friendly and bicycle friendly and unicycle friendly over being car friendly and truck friendly, that the temperature, and now since temperature is the big boogeyman, uh, perhaps it will catch on more. And part of that says that the trees that we are going to plant will be fruit trees to feed the homeless or to feed the passersby. And there are so many buildings in urban areas that are no longer being used. Either the company has moved out, and in the future this will be it'll be much more, because there are structures we do not need. Um, so, for example, a good friend of mine that we have futurist discussions with is moving. And where is he moving? He is moving into a community for older folks that is being located on what used to be a four-year college. College campus. College campuses have dorms, they've got wide open spaces, they've got places to eat, and so on. And so they took a part of this college campus and converted it to old folks living. With the autonomous vehicle, you will not need parking garages downtown. In fact, I'm on the board of directors for a community health center here, and the CEO said we need a parking garage. We used to use this, we used to use that, and rent it. We need our own parking garage. And I said that's going to be fine for the next 10 years. But when autonomous vehicles become the predominant vehicle transporting the patients, you're not going to need a parking garage. So you're going to have to repurpose that. So at least in the design today, let them design it in such a way that it can be turned into vertical farming for the inner city, right? Or build that repurposing into the design today, because in 10 years from now, you will need it to be something else. So the cities are going that way. And there's a we could talk about that one all day, because there's so many different the future of scenarios that say that maybe the apple will be available to you and me just by taking a walk.
Have you seen this? I think it's a German architect, and he took over one of the big motorway sections in the center of Munich. They closed all the traffic for, I don't know how long it was, it must have been quite a while. And they covered the whole area in turf. So instead of being gray, massive motorways and car parks, everything was covered in grass. And it was unbelievable how that changed the city. It just looked like paradise compared to how that part of Munich normally looks. It's an incredible transformation if you just take away concrete.
And I think that they're doing, for example, we live about 2 hours from Boston, Massachusetts, and they took I-95, which is the big interstate highway running the entire length of the East Coast, and it was running right downtown, and they took it and they buried it. So they called it a construction project, which lasted for 10 years and disrupted everything for 10 years, but they called it the Big Dig. Big Dig. And they took 95 and they just put it underneath the city. And where it used to be is now trees and parks and park benches, all of that, right? And then there's a whole list of cities that are doing something with the reducing the lanes of traffic. In New York City, they're reducing the lanes of traffic, and they're turning the other lanes into the restaurants can build an outdoor eating area. That was big during the pandemic. That really took off. Some of the other lanes are being turned into bicycle lanes, anything but cars. And the number of I remember reading it, but I don't remember the number. The number of parking spots in New York City is being reduced by. It was in the thousands or the tens of thousands. So they are reducing parking. It's no longer convenient to take your car downtown, which I think is great. Same for Paris, same for London.
I don't know whether you have seen today there was posted a very interesting post by one professor, visualization, how much space take 8 billion people on the planet. Have you seen that?
Saw that. Yes.
It's not completely, it's compared generally to the size of New York, you know. If I take 1 square meter per person, it's 8,000 square kilometers. New York is 786.2. So it's 10 times the size of New York. So the picture is not accurate properly. But in fact, my country size is 78,000 square meters. So it's generally 10th of a small country where all people in the world will fit. And that they try to prove generally that the information that the planet is not big enough for 8,000 people is not correct. We have less than 1 minute right now, so we are already at the end. And I would like to thank you for a great and tasty discussion. You know, it's much more better than if it will be just a touch discussion. You know, this was a tasteful, same as the apple. It's just that the technology does not allow me to give you the apple over the screen. I have 3 here, so unfortunately I cannot, but I would like to thank you, and I would like to wish everyone have a nice time, free of waste and wasting in all its forms. Stay safe, free, and enjoy the apple when you pick it from the tree. And see you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.